Wake up, everybody. Happy Friday. It is the Real Estate Lab podcast. Today, we're going to go over affordability in Austin, Texas. It's a hot topic, especially on the cusp of so many things that are going on in the world today. So we're going to go around the room and introduce ourselves, starting with dude below.
JJ Tolentino with the Next Level Property Group, Realtor in Austin, and excited about this topic. It comes up a lot. I think as realtors, we're working with people, with buyers and sellers, and seeing how the affordability goalpost is moving a little bit. I'll pass it on to Liberty.
Hey, everybody. Liberty Walker here, Realtor in charge. I'm kidding. And yeah, and today, it's a bittersweet topic for me because although I love seeing the growth and the wonderful things that are happening in Central Texas and how we're just booming and growing, it also does bum me out for those people who are really feeling the lack of affordability in Austin and beyond. So, but I'm ready to talk about it. Those things that hurt you the most, you just got to talk about it and give us the information. So let's do it. Todd.
This is this other guy we've got here.
Hey, I am Todd L. Mortgage Guy. I'm very interested in this topic because I've been doing some research and have a couple of ways to save people a lot of money on their mortgage payment so that they can have more affordability on their house. A couple of cool tricks coming up. Stay tuned.
Hey, that's something to look forward to. That's some silver lining right there, Todd.
Hey, everybody. I'm ianofAustin everywhere on the internet. Looking forward to getting into this. Okay, so let's start off with the definition of affordability. What does that mean to you, Liberty?
Well, I think what first comes to mind, it's just kind of what that, and you can look at the employment, what are people getting paid, and then how much does it cost to actually live in that area? Yeah.
JJ, you think that same thing?
Yeah, it's all relative, right? Like someone says, oh, Austin's not affordable. Someone could say Austin is affordable, but it's really what can you afford? So it goes back to what Liberty was saying. Well, let's look into, what Austin's average incomes are, housing. I think all this plays into it and see how affordability at some point it's fairly objective, right? Like, yeah, it sucks if you can't afford something or not, but we're going to get to the numbers and see what we're working with.
Todd, I think the question for you, because you're a mortgage lender, out of every 10 people, 10 people you talk to, how many of them can afford to live in Austin?
Well, that's a good question because can and want to are two different things. I encounter a lot of borrowers who make a lot of money. And one of the first questions I ask a borrower is, what are you looking to spend per month on your mortgage? And the surprising answer for most borrowers is, well, they probably don't understand how much a mortgage is on the first-time homebuyer side. But a lot of times people want to spend less than $2,000 a month on a mortgage. And that could be someone making $100,000 to $150,000 a year. So whether they can, I would say dealing with my buyer base, I probably have about 50 to 70% of my buyers could afford a $500,000 loan in Austin, but most of them prefer to keep it lower.
See, that's interesting. So, and I've said this before, I heard it on Christina Smallhorn's channel the first time, and she's another realtor that does, she's in Louisiana. She's incredible. If you want to talk about affordability, go check out her channel. But she said affordable to me and to most people in her, circle are, if you are a teacher, a first responder, maybe a firefighter, and you cannot get a house in that place, that's unaffordable. And that kind of resonated with me because that means if you are a public servant and you can't afford it, then who can? Doesn't mean it's unaffordable. It means it's unaffordable to that demographic. Mm-hmm. But when you look at people in New York or California or Chicago or Canada, oh my gosh, or any of these other places that have higher cost of living, generally a higher cost of living, they can afford it just fine. But do they want to? Or are they overstretched with their debt? And maybe they only want to spend $2,000 a month on a mortgage. And then they find out that that's a house that you get in where? Temple?
Yeah.
That would be a $30,000 loan. So you're looking at, probably Gerald, North Georgetown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So JJ, you said you had numbers around that. Why don't we pull up what the median income is for people?
Let me
I
go
think
to
that's a good
here.
starting point, because we want to look at income, we want to look at rent, and we want to look at house prices. I think all of those are relevant in this conversation. So you've got
Right.
this up right here.
And I've seen varying numbers. So this from Data USA and City Data, they match up. Both 2019 data points at 75,000 for the median household income. And we could assume this was a few years ago that it's on its way up. If I do more research, you could see household going up to 80s.
So here's my question. This is from 2019, right?
Mm-hmm.
House prices have essentially doubled, right?
Oh, yeah, in some places.
I
From
mean,
that
really,
amount
yeah.
from
I mean-
then. So does that mean that that the median home price to make it affordable should be 150,000 per household? Is that what you're saying?
It's possible. I mean, I even read, even regarding jobs, I got this other stat from New York Times that says over the last 10 years, jobs in high tech have rose 62% in Austin, which is a total of 176,000 people. That means 17% of all jobs are high tech. So almost two out of 10 people are in the tech industry.
Is that aligning with what you're seeing, Liberty or Todd? 1 out of every 5 people is a tech person that's
Well,
buying.
I mean, it definitely sounds about right. And it just makes me think about all of those people who are, like you said, living in the city, who maybe are childcare workers or nurses. I mean, I was watching a K-View interview yesterday on a nurse who was making about $100,000. And she was starting to look for a home to purchase, and there was nothing in the Austin area that was going to be affordable for her.
So let's pause for a minute, excuse me, and say affordable. So let's talk about that affordable. So she's making $100,000. Here's what we're not talking about. And this is something that Todd can kind of speak more to. When you're looking to buy a house, it's not just what you make, it's also what you owe and what you spend elsewhere.
That's
right.
true.
So she could be making 100. Go ahead.
If you think about those people who are in the medical profession, who maybe do have a lot of education debt.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Cause that could be a quarter of their monthly income. And that's going to decrease the amount that they can afford or that they can apply for a loan on a home.
Yeah, so let's look at the $100,000 income just to give you an idea of numbers.
Yeah, and
you have something to share, or are you just going to wing it or speak it?
I've just done the numbers in my head. So that's $83.33 a month. 40. So on a normal conventional loan, we usually go up to 45% of that income, of that gross monthly income, to allow for all their debts. Okay. So that equates to a $37.50 a month is what she could be spending. That nurse could be spending on all of her debts, including her future mortgage payment.
So almost $4,000. Okay?
Almost $4,000 a month. Now,
if she makes $100,000 a year.
If she makes $100,000 a year. Now that equates to about $500,000 to $550,000 loan, not purchase price. So whatever she has for her purchase price would be the down payment on top of that. Mm-hmm. So now you take into the other thing about student debt is one good thing is recently. For student debt, we used to have to count for 1% of the overall debt against their income. So if they had $100,000 in student loans, we would tack the $1,000 a month off. But recently, that's gone down to half. So now people with student loans only need to count $500 against that. So that
for every 100,000.
For every if they have $100,000, if they're a nurse or if they've been a lot of $100,000 would be $500 a month. Or $50,000 would be $250 a month, which increases their spending quite a bit.
So she can still spend almost $3,250 a month if that's her. If she still has $100,000 in student debt.
Well, correct. And this particular woman, she was a single mother of 2, and both of her children are in daycare. And I know that daycare for kids under the age of 5. for Austin, for the Austin area, that's going to cost you an average. So an average is going to be about $1,000 per kid. That's not the best daycare, and that's not the worst.
So here's the question:
$1,000
that $1,000 for the 2 children, or is it per kid? You said
per kid.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that $2,000, does that count on the loan? I don't think it does, right? Because it's not actually a requirement.
It's not reported on the credit report. That's correct.
But that's why
bringing home $8,300 a month, and she's spending half of that on her debts and mortgage, and then an additional $2,000. I mean, what are her living expenses going to be?
Yeah.
And what kind of life can you have with that?
Well,
she's gonna have to share Netflix accounts.
So to caveat on that, if she's making $100,000, her gross monthly income is $8,333. After taxes, she's probably bringing home $6,500. If she's claiming 2 children, she's probably claiming $65,000 to $7,000. She's bringing home. So then you tack that mortgage payment of $3,500, and then you tack the student loan payment, and then you tack the 2 kids. You're looking at about $1,000 left.
And that's for food.
Okay, so this is a person making $100,000 to get a loan for what? 500. Excuse me, for $500,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, how many houses can you get for $500,000 easily without it being a bidding war and going above that?
This is a good time to talk about Austin versus Greater Austin as well, because now we're starting to look, 2 kids, need some space.
Well, and this is someone that's making $100,000 solo.
$100,000 solo.
Even like a lot of people, and Todd, Liberty, all of us, you'll have to give us numbers. How many people do you have come to you that each partner, let's say it's it's a partnership, and each one makes $50,000?
Yep.
That's my normal. I mean, I would say that's at least half of my borrowers they're not making $50,000, but they're not making $100,000.
Right.
I would say majority of my borrowers, except for those tech people that JJ was talking about, those are the people that really bring in the bank.
4 out of 5 people are not tech. Out of those 4 people that are not tech, how many of them are making greater than, let's say, $75,000? From what you've seen come in.
From the top of my head, I would ballpark that to be right the average.
Yes. I mean, Harvard University did a study on Austin on household incomes, and they did say that the average income earnings were $45,000 to $75,000. So
do you have that to share, or is that just something you picked up earlier?
No, I have it. I mean, I have it right here. It's just text.
That's good. That's good.
45 to 75. Yeah.
45 to 7. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about, JJ, you had something else you wanted to share about this.
Well, I just had the affordability. I think medium price points too. Do we talk about that?
We said $500,000 doesn't get you anything in Austin easily. It might get you in the suburbs now.
The ABOR, the Austin Board of Realtors, we have the January 2022 stats out, and for Travis County, it's 530 according to them.
So that's Austin proper.
That's Austin. Now, surrounding areas, that's going to be more like 476 according to the Austin Board of Realtors. And that's, I mean, and that honestly, guys, a 475, you might have, some things to do with that property. You might need some upgrades in it. It's not going to be the prettiest property in the world, and you're going to have to fight to get that one.
It's so crazy because now we're looking at, if you make $100,000, you can fight over, if you bring in $100,000 as a family, you can fight over a $500,000 house. That is the reality today in Austin, Texas. And it's kind of incredible because a lot of people couldn't fathom that 3 years ago. And so I think the next question is, what do you need to be competitive? What do you need to make household income to be competitive in Austin?
What do you need? Yeah. Or what do you need? maybe it's not even what you make. It's like, how much cash do you have in your bank account that you can then use to win the property?
Well, so we talk about these numbers. What we're not considering is Austin proper typically has a lower tax rate than any of these suburbs. Imagine if the tax rate's higher or your interest rate is higher, which I know we need to get into, right? This is at a low interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
And the interest rate today is what, Todd?
Well, if you're looking at a 30-year conventional loan with a good credit score, you're probably going to be around 4.25.
4.25. What if you are an investor?
Investors are looking at 4.5 to 4.75 with 25% down. If they put 20% down, they're in the fives.
Okay, so in the fives. And then what if you are an FHA borrower or using one of those other programs like
those? The government loans, FHA, VA, USDA, those are all competitively still in the threes.
Okay.
So
JJ Liberty, how often are you getting those contracts, those under contract?
It's a tough place to be if you're an FHA buyer. Let's just put it that way.
It's tough.
Todd, how many people call you out of every 10 people? How many people ask you for down payment assistance or no down payment or the lowest cash to close?
I typically talk to, out of the 10, I would say 2. My borrowers are typically more qualified because of the way I marketed myself. So I get people that are more highly qualified. But I did close an FHA, and it was with you, Ian. So you did get an FHA under contract, and it worked out well. But it's not the norm. It's definitely not the norm. I would say conventional is definitely the way to go, especially because of what Liberty was saying. Those lower priced houses have issues that are going to come up with FHA appraisals.
That's right.
Yeah, I feel like we're lucky if you're FHA client or VA client. Unfortunately, you just happen to land it somehow.
It's rare unless you find a new construction community that may be accepting first come first serve, and you might have to be going to Bastrop or beyond or San Marcos and south of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on, it all starts going back to the cash. So Todd, what do you think people need to get into a $500,000 house right now, cash on hand?
Minimum down payment is going to be minimum down payment on a conventional loan could be as low as 3%, but let's just go 5% just to give them because conventional loans probably 5% down would be $25,000.
Okay.
And then on top of that, your closing costs are going to be 3 to 5%. So between $40,000 and $50,000 is the minimum you would need for the cash to close.
So $50,000 if you make $100,000 and you want to buy a $500,000 house, you need to have $50,000 on hand to start being competitive. Start.
Yes. Now keep in mind that's at the $500,000 purchase price, not what I talked about with the $500,000 loan. So the payment on that's going to be a little bit affordability. Talk about affordability. The payment on that's going to be about $150, $200 lower than we were estimating earlier, because you're going to.
So now let's go back to the affordability word. What is a monthly payment that you are hearing that is affordable? So Todd, I've heard you say people want to spend half that. Liberty, JJ, what are you hearing that people want to spend monthly when they call you?
Well, the financial calculations, 20-30% of your income, right?
Doesn't matter what the calculation is. What are people asking you?
I mean, they ask me all sorts of stuff, and we have to tell them to really look at their numbers too, because I mean, sometimes you think that you want to pay something per month and just because you can, but then your quality of life is going to go down. Now you need to make sure that you can still do the things that make life worth living, like going out to eat sushi every Friday.
Heck yeah. Or learning to make sushi. Just learn to make it. It's fun. Rolling it and everything. That's
another option right there.
I don't know. That just sounds like a tummy ache, Ian. I'm not.
No, it's great. It's great. So what about you, JJ? What are you seeing for numbers? When people call you and they're like, I want to spend this much monthly, what is this much?
You know, I let my buyer and the mortgage broker go over it. You know, I'm more on the price end, so my medium price point is close to that 500 that we keep talking about.
Todd, what are you hearing?
And
Well,
that's
I was
2,000 a
going
month.
to try to address that because it seems like with a lot of my realtors, I'm the first line of defense for that number. And
Okay.
when I'm talking to borrowers about their ideal price point, they're usually ill-informed based on whatever website they looked at, which doesn't tell them the full principal, interest, taxes, and insurance aspect of their payment. And they think when they come to me, they think $1,500 will buy them a $400,000. We'll make a $400,000 a month payment. And so it's a hard conversation. But the trick is like we've talked about, is finding where they're comfortable with, and also what doesn't make them house poor. Because being house poor, I've been there. I did that, and it's not fun. It doesn't make living that posh neighborhood that you wanted to live in any better. So yeah, it's a tough decision, tough conversation.
I think obviously this is very different for people that are coming and they already have a house that they can sell or borrow equity from to purchase a new house. But if you're a first-time buyer and you want to spend $2,500 a month today, where are we putting them?
Can you repeat that, the number amount again, Ian?
If a new buyer, so someone who does not have the ability to pull equity from another property, wants to spend $2,500 a month today, where are they going?
What's their down payment?
It's a good question. Todd said what? 25,000 minimum, 25 to 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
So what
they have $30,000. They want to spend $2,500 a month. Where can they go?
Where does that leave us? 500,000? Or
no?
If you're looking at what that loan amount is, that's around 350 right now.
Okay,
So,
2 months ago, that'd be closer to 400,000.
I mean, guys, let me know if you know of any place
400.
that's going to be that. I honestly, I haven't seen anything low. I mean, it's just not going to happen. You're going to be outbid by a cash investor every single time.
Well, that's why we're bringing this up, because we're talking about affordability. We're talking about affordability. Most people call me and it ranges, right? I'll have somebody that says, I want to spend $2,000 a month. And I have other people that says, just show me a good deal. It doesn't matter what I have to spend.
Now, to talk about one trick that I want to talk about that can help your borrowers that are looking at that $2,500 a month payment is how to rephrase that. So typically speaking, in the past, if you put 20% down, you can waive your escrows. Your escrows are your taxes and your insurance. Now, I have a bank that I work with that will allow you to waive your escrows at any level of putting. If you put 5% down, you can waive your escrows. So what that means, now keep in mind, the borrower has to understand that once or twice a year, they're going to have to pay a large sum of money. Usually they can use their income tax returns. If they have an annual bonus, they can use those to pay their taxes. But if you take that $2,500 a month payment and you remove the taxes and insurance part of their payment, that means they're looking at over $500,000 loan at that point.
At $2,500 a month. But they still have a $10,000 tax bill at the end of the year that they have to pay for.
Exactly.
So they're not actually saving anything monthly.
No.
Well,
it's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Well, the thing about it is if you rephrase it. So if you have a borrower that gets paid a large lump sum annually,
like a bonus, like a profit sharing or something.
Yeah, or that single mother who's got the 2 kids, who's going to have a large income tax return that will probably pay for her, can pay her property taxes. Then those are ways that they can try to rephrase the whole income situation and then get into a nicer house and then still be able to make their ends meet and live comfortably.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And then another one is a new program that just come out. It's been around for a while, but they're becoming more popular. Is a 40-year loan instead of a 30-year mortgage.
Really?
There's a 40-year loan, and on the 40-year loan, the first 10 years you're only paying interest. So if you're paying interest only, that means your monthly payment is going to be $500 to $600 lower per month.
Okay, so let's take a step back. we're in one of the hottest areas in the country still, as far as growth, economic growth, and property value increase.
Tech jobs.
So you can get a 40-year loan where your first decade you're paying all interest.
And the kicker is
the equity will continue, more than likely, you never know, but more than likely will continue to rise.
yes. So the kicker is you get that interest only loan, you get it, use this program to get the interest only loan. 2 years later, you refinance into a normal mortgage.
Yeah.
And then you're at a fixed rate for 30 years and it's a low rate and stuff like that.
But also, if you get a bonus, you could just apply that to principal and start knocking it down.
Correct. You can pay the principal down
prepaid
during that 10-year period, just like
Awesome.
any other loan. There is no early payoff penalty.
So let's take that same scenario. $2,500 a month this person wants to spend. They do a 40-year loan.
So there are a couple things. First of all, it requires 15% down minimum. So it has to be someone with a little bit more money, but that would turn into a $425,000 to $450,000 loan. It'd go from $350 to $425 minimum. And then on top of that, you're putting 15%. You have to put 15% down. So that puts you into the $600,000 purchase price area.
Price range. Now that's a little more competitive, but is that affordable? Is that affordable?
Well,
I mean, it's taken a little bit of a risk too. I mean, we know house prices. I don't know if I would bet that much that they're going to keep doubling and triple 30% per year.
yeah.
Well, Todd, what was the information on interest rates and they're rising or falling or what have you? What do we know about interest rates so far?
As far as interest rates are concerned, the rates have gone up dramatically over the last. Almost all the banks have raised interest rates, have raised the rates in anticipation for the Fed raising rates, even though the Fed hasn't even raised rates yet.
So the banks themselves are like, we're just going to go ahead and change the numbers because eventually the Fed's going to catch up to us and we might as well capitalize on that future increase. Yeah.
Yeah, they're making a little extra money. The banks are making
a little extra money. And this is all banks or most banks?
Yes. So what I've in my research, which is I talked to a lot of different lenders that in my cohorts, if you will, and the rates are pretty where they are at. Now, a lot of times the bigger like Chase and Bank of America, those places, sometimes they'll keep the rates a little lower because they're servicing their own loans, but they've already gone up. So the rates for most, I couldn't tell you a bank that's in the threes on a 30-year loan. That's any kind of loan. I couldn't tell you one.
Todd, is this 40-year thing like other lenders are doing it, or like when did this start?
It's a non-qualified mortgage.
Okay.
So that means it's not a conventional, it's not a VA, it's not an FHA, or it's not a USDA. It's non-qualified. They used to call them non-prime back in the day, subprime loans.
Subprime. Are they variable?
Subprime.
They're not variable though.
This is a 30-year fixed rate. It's a 40-year fixed rate.
40-year fixed.
It's a non-QM loan. So that means people that are doing this are going to save $500 to $600 per month. On the case I was looking at, it was a $400,000 loan. They would save $500 to $600 per month over in the first 10 years, but their rate's higher. The rates is 5 to 5.5%.
See, but let's say it's a first-time buyer and they just need a house. They're already paying rent, and rent is a wash. You're not making money. You're just paying rent. The whole idea behind rent is if you're able to save the excess versus what you would have put into a mortgage, then fine. Now, if they're doing this with a mortgage and they have this house for 3 years and the value of the property goes up 10 to 20%, and then they need to either refinance or go sell that house so that they can buy their next house with a normal loan, then that's how they win. That's a really good. I don't know if I'm going to say really good. I'm going to say that is an option.
It's an option. Well, obviously, it's more interest over time, but you're in wherever you.
But some people can't be choosy, right? If you're trying to pay $2,500 a month in Austin right now, which is, that's like baseline affordability. So if you're trying to do that, then this might be one of the few options that can work.
Yeah. So two things on that.
Hit
First
that
of all,
number.
the first thing is we all know how long buyers stay in a house. 2.5, 3 years maximum.
Mhm.
In Austin, it's a high turnover because they've been surprised with the amount of growth, and people are like, "I can do what now with this equity?" And then
Yeah.
they jump. Like they're going to jump quicker now than they have historically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that 10-year interest only beginning of the loan, what are they going to? They're going to be 2 or 3 years maximum.
Right.
So they're not going to. They're not. And then on the other side of that is that savings per month, even though they're not buying their principal down, they're not paying the principal of their loan down. They're saving $500 to $600 a month on a $400 loan, a $400,000 loan. That's going to allow them to increase their budget, which is what
So
you guys are encountering.
If you know you're going to move, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, if you know you're going to move, that's really it. Interesting.
And the refi
Liberty,
is there too.
what are your thoughts? You're over there. You're like your eyebrows are moving. You have
It's
stuff
interesting,
to say.
No, I just think, I think that is a great idea. And if people can kind of shift their mindset to just grab that house that you can right now, because it's tough to get one. If you're renting and you have the ability to buy a home right now, go ahead and get it. Make that home work for you, and then get to your dream home later. It might be sooner than you think.
JJ, here's my question to you. If you have a family, they're pregnant with their first child, and they're living in an apartment and they need to buy a house, is it worth driving an hour to get something more affordable? Or would you tell them to just stick with the apartment?
Stick with the apartment. Well, I do believe in housing as a generational wealth builder.
Mm-hmm.
So I would pivot somehow through that, because renting, it's cool if, like you said, you could save money. If you move around a lot, maybe you like a lot of different areas and you're not tied, you don't have to like sell. But if they're focused on building wealth, it's one of those things. It reminds me of Sarah Weaver's podcast. Was it immediate gratification? That whole thing?
Instant gratification versus
gratification
long-term
versus like sacrificing now, all that commuting, but you're going to have some equity build up and appreciation.
So you're saying, because
No, notice I said if you're pregnant with your first child. That was intentional, right? Because like Todd had mentioned, how long are they going to stay in that house, and when are their kids going to start school? I think a lot of people are like, well, I got to get into a place now in the area that I want to be, because when my kids start school, it's like, you're not even going to be there when your kids start school. I don't know if you know that. And it's not going to be the same school.
Yeah, I would tell anyone that's watching this, like, you might not stay in that home as long as you think. Just remember, just question yourself about that and then make some decisions.
All right, Todd, what information on affordability? I know you've already given a lot, but what is something on affordability that people may not consider that you think would be a huge golden nugget or a value add for them to know right now?
Another quick money saving tip is mortgage insurance. So there are two types of mortgage insurance. You have a monthly mortgage insurance, or you have an upfront one-time fee mortgage insurance. So typically speaking, let's just say someone has about a $200 a month mortgage insurance. If they were to pay a one-time fee at the beginning of the loan at closing, they can have the mortgage insurance waived. That's typically $5,000, $6,000, $8,000. But it again allows that buyer to get about $25,000 to $40,000 increase in purchase price.
Let me take a step back. Let me take a step back just to make sure I summarize what you just said. The people that are like, I don't want to go FHA because I don't want mortgage insurance, could just buy down the need to own mortgage insurance. And it's different than just going conventional.
No, FHA is required. Mortgage insurance is required.
Okay.
This is on a conventional loan with less than 20% down.
Got it.
Yeah. But yeah, so you buy the mortgage rate that you can pay that upfront mortgage, and then they remove the mortgage insurance, and that could save them. If it's $200 a month, that's going to get them to increase their loan amount to 25 or up to $40,000, depending on the tax rates. So that'll help them have a increased purchase price.
So, man, that's good. My message of the day would be: right now, you have people that need to to get into a house because they will, like, it's already difficult today. So if you want a house in this area and you're in a position to be able to try and afford it, I feel like that is the wise move for long-term financial growth. Or go somewhere else. Like, I'm fine with that too. I don't care. You know, it's whatever makes the most sense for your family. One option is get in at whatever lowest cash to close to make it work. And then one thing people might not know is that your equity increase based on what we've seen in the last few years will allow you to refinance the home and lower your payment or remove that mortgage insurance or do things that you may not have known. So you're going to struggle for a minute. You're going to struggle with gas prices. You're going to struggle with all sorts. You may struggle, not going to, but you may. Depends on your budget. But that struggle, just every single person that I've seen go through that struggle, I cannot think of one person that I've helped. And it's been over 100 in the last 2 years. I cannot think of one person where the struggle wasn't worth it based on where they are today. And that is incredible to me.
Those are some great words to end on, Ian.
Awesome.
I love that.
We got Alonzo. Good afternoon, everyone. My client may purchase 1 acre with a potential tear down a bit past Dale area for high 180s. I was thinking of moving that home. He says he's thinking of suggest a construction loan and get 3 builder quotes. You know anything about construction loans? This one's for Todd.
I was going to say, reach out to Todd on this one. This
Reach
is a
out to Todd,
conversation.
Alonzo.
This is a conversation. And we're actually going to talk about this, I think, on next week's stream. So make sure you tune in. We're going to talk more about land and building, where to find land and how to build. So save that thought. Thank you, Alonzo. Thank you, everybody, for watching with us. And leave some comments on on what you'd like to see for future episodes.
Awesome, everybody.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.